The fluorescent lights hummed. My pencil scratched across my notebook. Math class. Mr. Thompson droned on about fractions. A normal day, until it wasn't.
A high-pitched buzz pierced the air. We all looked up, startled. Mr. Thompson frowned, his gaze darting to the intercom on the wall. Then the voice boomed, cold and sharp.
Lockdown. I repeat, lockdown.
Mr. Thompson's face turned white. He rushed to the door, locked it, then pulled down the blinds.
Everyone under your desks now, he hissed, his voice shaking.
My heart pounded against my ribs, each beat echoing in my ears like a drum. The room seemed to close in around me, the walls pressing in tighter with every second. I scrambled under my desk, the plastic cool against my cheek. The cold surface was a stark contrast to the heat of my panic. I could hear my own breathing, rapid and shallow, mixing with the muffled sounds of my classmates. My classmates huddled nearby, their faces pale with fear. We were a cluster of frightened children, seeking comfort in each other's presence, yet feeling utterly alone in our terror. What was happening? Whispers, frantic and hushed, filled the room. The air was thick with tension, every whisper adding to the growing sense of dread. We exchanged glances, searching for answers in each other's eyes, but finding only more questions.
What's going on? Is it a fire drill? I'm scared. The uncertainty was the worst part, the not knowing. It gnawed at us, making the fear even more unbearable.
I pressed my hands over my ears, trying to block out the noise, the whispers, the shuffling, the occasional sobs. It was all too much. I wanted to shut it all out, to find some semblance of peace in the chaos. My breaths came in short, shallow gasps. I tried to calm myself, to take deeper breaths, but it was like my lungs had forgotten how to work properly. Each inhale felt like a struggle, each exhale a desperate release.
Mr. Thompson paced at the front of the room, his phone pressed to his ear. His usually calm demeanor was replaced with a look of intense concentration and worry. He was our rock, and seeing him like this only heightened our fear. He spoke in low tones, his brow creased with worry. We couldn't hear what he was saying, but the urgency in his voice was unmistakable. It was as if he was trying to shield us from the worst of it, but his expression betrayed him. Every so often he'd glance at us, his eyes filled with an emotion I couldn't quite place. It was a mix of concern, fear, and something else, something that made my stomach churn. We were all waiting, holding our breath, hoping for some kind of reassurance that never came. Time crawled by, minutes felt like hours. Each tick of the clock echoed in the silence, amplifying our anxiety. We could hear our own breathing, shallow and rapid, as we waited for something, anything to happen. The tension was palpable, a heavy weight pressing down on us. The silence outside the classroom was unnerving, broken only by the occasional muffled sound. It was as if the world outside had come to a standstill, leaving us trapped in a bubble of fear and uncertainty. Every creak of the building, every distant noise made us jump. A bang, a scrape. My imagination ran wild. Was it someone trying to get in? Or was it just the building settling? The unknown was the worst part, feeding our fears and making our hearts race even faster. We exchanged terrified glances, each of us wondering the same thing.
We stayed huddled under our desks, fear a tangible presence in the room. Some kids cried silently, their tears falling onto the cold floor. Others whispered prayers, their voices barely audible. We clung to each other, seeking comfort in the closeness, trying to find some semblance of safety in the chaos. I closed my eyes, picturing my family, clinging to the hope that this would all be over soon. I imagined my mum's comforting hug, my dad's reassuring words. I held on to those images, using them as a lifeline to keep my fear at bay. I wasn't the only one. I saw others doing the same, holding on to photos or keepsakes.
Then, a new sound. Footsteps, heavy and slow. They echoed through the hallway, each step sending a jolt of fear through us. We listened intently, trying to gauge how close they were, who they belonged to. The suspense was unbearable, each second stretching into an eternity. They came closer, stopping right outside our classroom door. My breath hitched. We all held ours. The shadow under the door loomed ominously, a silent threat. We waited, hearts pounding, for what felt like forever. The air was thick with tension, every muscle in our bodies tensed, ready for whatever came next.
The doorknob rattled.
A collective gasp ran through the room.
My heart leapt into my throat. I squeezed my eyes shut, bracing myself.
But the door didn't open. The footsteps moved on.
We waited, our fear a living thing coiling around us.
The silence stretched, punctuated by the frantic thump 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 of my heart.
What was taking so long? Why hadn't they told us anything?
A loud crackle from the intercom. We all flinched.
Attention students and staff. The situation is under control. Please remain calm and stay in your classrooms.
Relief washed over me. It was finally over.
A wave of chatter rippled through the classroom as students emerged from under their desks. Smiles, tentative at first, spread across their faces.
It seems like it was a false alarm, but we need to wait for the all clear before we can leave.
But even as he spoke, a flicker of doubt remained in his eyes, and deep down, a knot of unease lingered in my stomach. Something didn't feel right. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream echoed through the hallway. The chatter ceased abruptly. Our eyes widened in terror.
This was no false alarm. This was real.
The intercom crackled again, but this time the voice was different. High-pitched, panicked, a student.
Help us! They're not letting us leave! They're trapping us!
The knot in my stomach tightened. This wasn't a drill. This wasn't a false alarm. We were trapped. The next few hours were a blur of fear and confusion. We huddled together, listening to the chaos unfolding outside our classroom door. Sirens wailed in the distance, helicopters buzzed overhead. The tension was palpable, and every minute felt like an eternity. We whispered among ourselves, trying to make sense of the situation, but the uncertainty only heightened our anxiety. The teachers did their best to keep us calm, but their worried glances betrayed their own fears.
Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the door swung open. Police officers, their faces grim, ushered us out of the classroom and into the bright sunlight. We were safe. The relief was overwhelming, but it was mixed with a sense of disbelief. As we walked out, we saw the concerned faces of our parents and the community members who had gathered outside. The reality of the situation began to sink in, and we realized just how close we had come to a potential disaster.
Later we learned that the lockdown hadn't been caused by an intruder, but by a group of students who had hacked into the school's PA system as a prank that had gone terribly wrong. The revelation was shocking. It was hard to believe that something so serious could stem from a misguided attempt at humor. The students responsible were remorseful, but the damage had been done. The incident sparked a lot of discussions about the consequences of our actions and the importance of thinking before we act.
The experience left an indelible mark on all of us. It was a wake-up call that made us more aware of our surroundings and the potential dangers that could arise at any moment. We became more vigilant, more cautious, and more appreciative of the safety measures in place to protect us.
It taught us the importance of safety, the power of community, and the fragility of normalcy. We realized that our sense of security could be shattered in an instant, and it was up to us to support each other and stay strong in the face of adversity. The school held assemblies and community meetings to address our concerns and to ensure that we felt heard and supported.
And it left us with a lingering sense of unease, a reminder that even on the most ordinary of days, the unexpected can happen. The once familiar hallways now seemed different, and the sense of innocence we once had was replaced with a cautious awareness. We couldn't help but look over our shoulders, wondering if something else might happen.
Yeah, it was a lesson none of us would forget anytime soon. The incident became a part of our collective memory, a story we would tell for years to come. It changed us, made us more resilient, and taught us the value of being prepared for the unexpected. We learned that in times of crisis, we could rely on each other and that together we could overcome even the most daunting challenges.